Hey everyone, welcome back to Redditly. Today's video is titled, My 44 male, wife 41 female was recently contacted by her ex-boyfriend slash co-writer, 36 male, and I've grown a bit nervous. Please make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a future upload. Let's get right into it. Hello everyone, let me first start by saying that my wife and I are very open, maybe way too open about our past and past partners and all that. She is my second wife. My first wife was big on fidelity and we broke up over her cheating. The ex and I share a son. My wife also has a daughter of her own from a previous marriage. We've been married for 5 years and our little blended family works well together. As I mentioned earlier, we are perhaps too open about our past relationships. Her first husband was a serial cheater. He was a musician and slept around with women from his gigs. She stumbled into his emails only to learn that he was involved with 5 other women, one of which he'd gotten pregnant. Not wanting their child to grow up in a broken home, she wanted to save the relationship and reached out to one of her old internet friends for advice. We'll call him Chris. The two had been friends for 7 years up until that point, but had never met. They were writing partners. In fact, before they lost contact, they had been writing a novel together. She tells me that when she reached out for support, he was very kind and had actually been recommending a lot of ways to get past infidelity or what you should speak to an attorney about. In general, being a good friend. Somewhere in that, they decided to revisit writing their book again. According to her, they would casually flirt. As they lived on opposite sides of the country, they had no means to act. In all this, she decided her marriage was dead and stopped trying to fix things. Checked out, I guess. She and Chris expressed mutual attraction, and by the end of the year, he flew out to meet her. She filed for divorce right after the affair got physical, and Chris moved later that year to be with her. To make a long story short, her daughter, who was only 5 at the time, didn't really take to him. As she says, he didn't do anything wrong. She just wasn't adjusting properly after the divorce and didn't like somebody replacing her father. My wife told him they needed to take a break due to this and due to the fact that he's a bit crass sometimes. She had only intended for it to be a short break, but he was apparently so hurt that he'd moved that far to be turned away 2 months in, so he broke it off entirely. After months had gone by, they reconnected to try and finish their book. They began sleeping together again during this time, but it was just a physical thing. They came close to finishing the book, so she started dating me. Thus, they stopped sleeping together. She felt weird about having an ex hanging around once she got in a committed relationship, and so by her own admission, she stopped returning his emails, which were all book-related, the same frequency, and stopped working on it on her end so much. He grew frustrated after a few months of this and blocked her on everything. Which finally brings us to months ago. After 4 or 5 years of no contact, he messages her out of the blue. He contracted COVID and nearly died. Chris contacted her because apparently in that time apart, he rewrote the book without her contributions, managed to get published, wrote and published a sequel, and released his work, came really close to not being finished if he died. He wanted to make it known that if something should happen to him, he wanted the rights of this thing turned over to her as she knows how it will end and helped create the story. Fair enough, that actually sounds nice. But then they get to talking. He's apparently writing a comic adaptation and invited her to come on board for it. He has a lot of the art done and she was very excited showing me and explaining to me who all the characters were, their backstories, what she thinks he got wrong in the design. She also read the first book and is telling me which names he changed, what characters were and weren't in their vision, the plot differences, and she seems to be having a lot of fun with it. I knew they wrote together, she's mentioned it before, but I had no idea they had this whole universe created. I can tell it was something that was really important to her. It seems like she'll take him up on the offer, and this worries me. Every time they've worked on something in the past, it leads to intercourse. Also, there is a bit of contact in their writing. I'm not the jealous type, and I certainly don't want to step on a dream she had buried, but I don't want a repeat of history. I'll admit I decided to snoop their conversation, and while it seems like he's been on the level and is only really discussing the project, she's pressing for information on his personal life. I wouldn't say in a flirty way, but she asked him if he's seeing anyone now, and when he answered no, he's too busy, that relationships just get in the way, she told him he needs to get back out there, that celibacy isn't a good look on him. We're pretty open about our past intercourse life, so I know her ex-husband was terrible at it. And once when she's drunk, she said that, Chris, don't let a great F convince you it'll be a good relationship. How the hell do I proceed? I know she was emotionally broken by her ex-husband and that's why she cheated. But she did cheat with this man. I've met him, he seems like an on-level guy. But they have a history that tells me something might happen. I want to approach my wife with my concerns, but I don't want to seem like an overbearing, controlling person. I want her to have her creative outlet. Because she glows in a way I've never seen before when she talks about this book I barely knew anything about. It feels like something that was deeply important for her and she forced not to be important. I want that for her, but I don't want their interactions to escalate into something more than they have 3 times already. And the first comment says, like someone else said, ask if you can be looped in on the project and be introduced to Chris so he's less of an unknown quantity. It seems unfair to stop her from doing this when it's a universe she put in so much thought and heart into creating. As a writer, I'd be devastated to pass something like that up. Not collaborating closely on intercourse scenes seems like a very reasonable boundary though. Have you talked to her at all about your concerns? And the OP replied, I did meet him briefly before. He and whoever he was dating at the time were coming out of a Starbucks as we were going in and we all chatted for like half an hour. I don't know how much you can learn about a guy in such a short time, but he seemed nice enough. I could tell he felt awkward about it as one would. The thing is, she never painted him as a psycho or an a-hole. She looked like at the relationship as something she got wrong and feels sorry for hurting him. If I got into their whole relationship, the post would have been 10 pages long. But as she describes it, they became internet friends in the early 2000s, and as they were in an online roleplay and writing group, they were very close friends, and though there was some flirting, they never did anything or just close friends. She said she latched on really hard when she found her ex cheating and that it was she who pursued him. Kind of a monkey branch into a relationship with him for validation, and he ended up with the short end of the stick. I don't think she wants him or regrets leaving him, but I know she feels terrible for what things she did to him. And the second comment says, no effing way. This guy only seems to be around when he thinks he's going to get some. I would make it very clear that this guy would be a hard boundary for me. If she decides to ignore me, I would start planning how you would proceed if you had to separate. The OP replied, I mean, yeah, boundaries, but where did you get that about the guy? They were friends for 10 years, dated online for like 5 months, and then another 2 once they were in person. He was around way before they started sleeping together, and everybody has the idea that she's running off to do this project and is ignoring me. She hasn't said whether or not she wants to do it, and the only thing she seems excited about is to tell me the characters of this Game of Thrones looking world they made. If she took the job and started constantly chatting with this dude without consulting me, I might consider planning how to get out of this, but so far she's been pretty on the level.